Today, this is your host, Tom, coming to you from 734 Public Source. And we're your source for Linux and open source technology, applied sciences. I put a lot of videos on here. And before I get started on my favorite editor for Linux, I want to tell you my nephew, he's getting cancer treatment. His Gofundme is in the description. And let's get started. Let's talk about Flowblade. Okay, so let's get started. Now, Flowblade is a video editor that's only available on Linux. I use it for most of my videos. When I'm working in Windows, I like to use HitFilm, but I actually prefer Flowblade. And before I found Flowblade, I used to do most of my editing through Windows because there's such a sheer breadth of video editors to choose from in Windows. But for me, Flowblade is one of the best video editors I've had the privilege of using. So I really enjoy using Flowblade, and it really has me working through Linux a lot more. And I almost don't need a Windows machine, but I like to have choices. I like to have a nice full setup. So I got my Windows PC, and I have my Linux PC, and I'm running Flowblade on my Linux PC, and I'm running HitFilm on my Windows PC. Now, I have to tell you that Flowblade matches HitFilm in just about every aspect as far as I use my video editors. Now, I'm not a movie maker. I don't make feature films. So for just making videos like most of you are going to be doing on here on BitChute and YouTube, I'd have to say that Flowblade is just as good, if not better than HitFilm for just doing YouTube videos. Now, I haven't ran into any technical issues with Flowblade. I've ran into like maybe one with HitFilm, and I'm using HitFilm Express. I've got a plugin that I bought for it, so it is the free version of HitFilm that I'm comparing it to. Well, not slightly free, because you still have to buy plugins if you want to do certain other things. But it wasn't very expensive. I want to say I spent under $20. So let's just say the $20 version of HitFilm versus Flowblade. And I have to tell you that Flowblade is still, in my opinion, I like Flowblade better. Now, according to the developer, Flowblade is a multi-track nonlinear video editor released under the GPL3 license. From beginners to masters, Flowblade helps make our vision a reality of image and sound. So that's what the developer says about Flowblade. Now, if you have questions about Flowblade, you can go to the GitHub. I'm going to leave that link in the description for you guys, so you guys can check out the GitHub. If you're an Ubuntu user, the easiest way to install Flowblade is not through the GitHub. It's actually to go to the Ubuntu Software Center. That thing is so great. Ubuntu has become Linux. Ubuntu, they've become such easy operating systems to use that any Windows user can jump into it. And if you're a Windows user and you're thinking about jumping into Linux and its programs, and you're watching this Flowblade video, do not be daunted by jumping into Windows. Don't be afraid to jump into Linux, because Linux is so easy to use. It's just as easy to use as Windows. Now, one thing about this program is when you add a video, it'll ask you if you want the profile of the project to match the video. You click yes, and it should work great. Everything works just like it's supposed to in Flowblade. I had a sound issue in HitFilm, which is kind of weird, and HitFilm is the paid program. So, I prefer Flowblade. HitFilm is a great piece of software, though. If you're on Windows and you have no plans of leaving Windows, HitFilm is actually a good video editor, but I prefer Flowblade. Flowblade is only available on Linux, and it's a great piece of software. Now, another aspect of Flowblade is its community. There's a community on YouTube. I'll probably leave a link in the description of one of these sites that covers Flowblade, and they have a lot of tutorials for you on how to use Flowblade and what to do. HitFilm is kind of the same way, but like I said, HitFilm actually costs money. You're actually going to have to buy certain features. Flowblade, you don't have to buy any feature. Now, I'd say at first, Flowblade is probably a little harder to use, but once you get used to it, it'll be like second nature, and you are definitely going to enjoy this program. If you're a video editor, it's a great program. You're going to get great quality out of it. Check it out. Now, as far as mic audio, I use a different program for mic audio. Maybe I'll do a video on that program, Audacity, and I just import that track into Flowblade, and I do most of the audio editing in Audacity, which is a great program on Sona. I'll probably talk about that in another video. But definitely for you Linux users out there, you want to get Flowblade. You're missing out if you're not. I mean, it's one of those programs that you want to have, like Blender. Now, I know Blender you can use as a video editor as well, but Flowblade is a little bit more specialized, and I think it has an edge over Blender for video editing. Blender is more for 3D rendering. And obviously there's GIMP is another program that you probably want to have if you're a Linux user. And obviously GIMP is available on Windows as well. And that's just a great all-around, basically you're like a Photoshop replacement, basically. I mean, I would call it a Photoshop replacement. With GIMP, you really don't need Photoshop. And in short, bit shooters and YouTubers, I think you should just get Flowblade, because why should you have to pay for a good video editor when you can just get one for free? And that's pretty much it for this episode on 734 Public Source. This is your host Tom signing off, and have a good night.